Thanks for coming today to Community Engagement in the Cloud. This session is designed to give you guys good tips and tricks on how to best manage community engagement and partnership through your data center operations and construction. We're going to kick off quickly. As you could see, community engagement's a team effort, so we got a nice panel here today. I'm just going to introduce myself real quick. And then we'll go around and do that, and then we'll kick into the substance of the discussion. But my name is Jesse Duker. I'm a principal at DLR Group. We're an integrated architecture and engineering firm. For work, I do data centers. Outside of work, personally, what am I centering right now in my personal life, just as a little icebreaker? I happen to have a 2-year-old, and we happen to be potty training. So, well, by we, I mean my wife, because I'm here. I'm here with you. So coming home, I'm going to bring her flowers, and I'm going to pick up a poncho for myself. It turns out potty training really just has to do with timing, aim, and a little stick-to-itiveness. So I'm in that right now. But anyways, good to be with you today. Joe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Joe Hubbard, Senior Director of Global Design and Delivery for Avio Digital. We are a private equity developer, owner, operator based in Stamford, Connecticut, with projects Western Europe, US, and Canada. Like Jesse, my kids are all gone, so I'm not dealing with that. I live rural East Texas, and outside of data centers, I just love getting away and playing with horses and dogs and turning off the data center noise.
Hey, John Shingler from T5 Data Centers. We have 3 divisions in T5. We have our development, where we buy and develop data centers, or construction, where we build them, and then operations, and I lead the operations vertical. Outside of data centers, I have 4 kids, 3 girls and a son, and I spend most of my time following their sports.
Hi everyone, I'm Stacey O'Donnell. I am Director of Operations for Clark Technologies. We are a division of Clark Construction Group, which is big blue banners around DC if you've gotten a chance to take a look. Clark Technologies is focused in our mission critical space, so data centers now, but whatever that leads to in the future. As far as centering, I'm a working mom of 2, an 8-year-old assertive young lady, and a 2-year-old little boy, so in the space of that.
Hi guys, Karen Cooper. I'm a mission critical client leader and architect also at DLR Group. Been in the data center and architectural industry for about 25 years, both on the client and the A&E side. Outside of work, I'm a single mom of an assertive 15-and-a-half-year-old, and if any of you guys know what the half means, it means that we are currently learning how to drive. And she's been doing it for 3 weeks and knows way more than I do, so wish me luck.
And just for the record, we're all potty trained here? Okay, good. Okay, good. Just for...
I'm not answering that.
Well, listen, you know, this is somewhat of a unique talk within the conference. Most of the conference, we're talking about cooling systems, power supply, supply chain issues, very technical things. You know, the data center industry is a technical field. This is more on the people side. You know, we may not appreciate it or understand it, but as data center designers, developers, operators, we're very much in the people business, although we think of ourselves often in the technology business. So as we talk about the people first element, I guess my first question would be to you, Joe, leading Avio Digital's design and construction group, doing projects all around the United States. What are some of the benefits that you see when you guys engage communities properly with community engagement and get partnership, not just approvals?
Well, all of our projects are in what you consider a tier 2 market. So it's not your traditional data center markets. It's going, if you're in the industry, you know we're following the power. And that power is taking us to rural areas that traditionally we're never had seen a data center. So what we're finding is going into these communities when we're securing land and starting the entitlement process is it's very important to start community meetings early on. And there's a couple of reasons why. It's one, to get into, you want to be in a community where you're considered a good neighbor. We all want to be our data centers to be accepted into the community, be a partnership, be a good neighbor. However, going into a new market, you know, if they see people who live rurally they're very savvy. So if they see a data center coming in, they're educating themselves. They're asking very good questions. They are asking some of the things that we've all heard throughout the years and misnomers that we try to correct or make a better impression of, but there are things that data centers do bring, and it's being transparent to those people and saying, yes, we do use power, we do use water, it does increase traffic, but then also talk about the good things come, like with traffic. This could be a lot of local people are part of the traffic who have a better paying job locally rather than having to travel to a data center market. But being transparent, talking about, yes, this is what comes with it, but this is the way we're going to mitigate it, and show that you're being upfront, you're not trying to, pull the wool over their eyes, you respect their intelligence of looking up what a data center means to our community. The second thing that we're finding is having pre-application meetings early on with the AHJs. What we're finding in a lot of these jurisdictions, designs that you would put in front at a pre-app meeting, we're finding, especially like fire marshals, they haven't had a reason to consider, do I have an opinion on lithium-ion batteries? They haven't had to have that discussion with anybody in their community. And so we're having pre-app meetings in areas like that to pose, what's your thoughts? And they say, well, I don't know, let me get back to you. So that you give them enough time and do it enough in advance that by the time you have your true pre-app meeting and you go in with your preliminary designs, they have an opinion. And so we're finding, especially in these rural areas where they haven't had a reason to talk about noise like that, lithium-ion batteries, diesel generators, emissions, it gives them time to have an opinion, call Ashburn, call whoever's closer by and get opinions from AHJs that are dealing with data centers and see how they're handling it. Because I can tell you, sometimes it's a deer in the headlights when I sit in these meetings. And I'm going to these meetings and just being very frank, and it's eye-opening to them, but they appreciate the opportunity before you submit a whole set of plans to have an opinion.
Yeah, from the designer point of view, expanding on that, some of the times it really depends on the type of client or data center operator owner that you're working with on the design side. But a lot of the questions I get is like, well, why do we need those pre-app meetings? Like, this is just more money, more time, et cetera, et cetera. It really, your ROI on those pre-app meetings is very, very high because those questions come up, for the example of the fire marshal. They come up at that point in time before the design is baked in. And so if they have issues, they're going to ask it then, and then you have time to solve it before you've spent hours and hours and thousands of hours doing the design, and then you have to go around and change it. So the ROI is very important, and it's something that sometimes isn't talked about when we as designers are kicking off a project with developers or owners, especially if they don't understand that, if they haven't been through it before.
As we discussed, we practiced a little bit before. This leads me in well to the next question about just education in general for data centers. So I hear Joe discussing trying to get into the cities early to help educate fire, various other, agencies that are going to be giving project approvals. What else do you guys think under the vein of education as it relates to community engagement? So we're educating the communities, we're educating the cities, we're educating the workforces. Perhaps maybe, Stacy, you might want to discuss how you guys approach education, including just educating the local trades in the industry, what they might need to work on the data centers.
Yeah, I think, I'll start by prefacing, the position that the data center industry is in right now, right? We are the driving force of adding capacity and adding resources into the industry of technical builders, right? So right now, in the lack of building in other market sectors, we are driving the need for the electricians, for the HVAC, for the facility operators that are, these are trainable skill sets that are transferable across a lot of different industries, right? So I think from an education standpoint and a workforce development, at Clark, we partner early with an owner, right? I think the early partnership is really crucial because they do want to go out to remote areas, and you're limited by the resources that you can bring to that area. So how do we educate the town and say, maybe get rid of the misnomer that we're not creating, the data centers aren't creating jobs, but really you think about the building of the data center where you have, for a 100 megawatt facility, you've got 500 to 800 craft workers that'll touch that building, right? And so the economic boom that you're going to see from building that data center is going to be huge in that area. So we develop programs. We can be assets to that. We've done that in a lot of different industries in private development, where we come into the local areas, we establish a workforce development plan, we link up with community colleges, we link up with our trade partners that have apprenticeship programs in community college or trade schools locally, or we do partnering sessions, right? So we partner a smaller sub, a local electrician, with a larger electrician that can learn a lot from the bigger business, right? So from a resource development and a dwindling resource that is, right? Adding more capacity in that region is super crucial.
Yeah, and to further out education, I think some of it just begins at the very start. I've lived in north of Houston, and it's the energy corridor area, and I've lived there for quite over a decade and a half, and no one's ever asked me about a data center until about a year or two ago. And I've gotten called into a lot of energy companies, and they want to know why it's becoming important. So I put on a presentation, and someone stopped me and goes, "Can you just start with what is a data center and why it's even important?" And then I had to think, like, even in my own household, I remember being at the bus stop like about 2 years ago, and my wife's like, "Oh, Bethany's having problems with her computer. Can you fix it?" And I'd be like, "Honey, I've been in this industry for a while, but when have I ever worked on a computer? Like, I know nothing about computers. Their cooling or electricity, yeah, I could handle that." But I think it's that education at every level, and it's when, on the operations side, we have the life cycle. When construction moves on and goes, we have to maintain that and continue on for the 10, 20 years after that. And so it's important that we continue to build at the school level. In Atlanta, we started to spend a lot of time around Cobb County school system to just teach the introduction. Growing up, we used to have home ec, and we used to have wood shop, and we used to have classes where you could learn stuff, like how to do something. And I don't think we have that, and I think it's important that we start actually going back into the schools. I guess you learn other stuff in math and sciences, but I meant like useful stuff. You go back into to actually teach some of that, and we're working with that. And then in North Carolina, we work with a lot of the community colleges in the same way, where we're able to bring people into our data centers to let them intern, to let them experience as part of the class, and kind of grow those trades, grow those skill sets. So there's a better understanding. And when you start working at the high school, junior college level, you could start getting people who understand it better and are not, I'd say, scared, or they don't have those misconceptions in the industry.
When I think most of us here found themselves in the data center industry. I don't think many of us deliberately decided 25 years ago, I want to be in digital infrastructure and I want to go into this industry. Now it's a real serious career path, and a very good career path. It's both stable employment, relatively good wages, pathwards up. Sometimes you don't even need a college degree and avoid all that debt. I'm curious with you guys, you all share that your parents, we got a 15-and-a-half-year-old, some grown kids, somewhere in between. Could you ever imagine your kids saying, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to work at a data center"? And if not, what do you think we have to do to kind of get this more in their heads to build that pipeline for career workers coming into the industry?
Yeah, I'll start and then I'll pass it over. But I know for myself, it's, I've heard someone say, someone probably a lot smarter than me, that this is a career by chance, not by choice. When we got into it, I mean, this is my 4th career. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up and go from there. But I think for the kids, it's just that education. I'd be ecstatic if my kids came. I don't think any of them want to come in the operations industry, but I think it'd be fun to actually have them work with you and grow to that. And you're starting to see more and more high school. We were talking about the WIMCO event last year in Texas, and they had high school kids there, and they had everyone who were actually looking at what to come into the career path for.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ask is, what do we do? What do you all do, right? We are professionals in the data center industry today, and so the ask is getting involved back into your community and sharing what you do for a livelihood, right? I think knowledge is power, and in this industry, it's been, I think, initially very, everyone close vests, everyone has their own secret sauce, and we don't share a lot of stuff, and everybody's races to the finish line. I think now we're at the point where there's enough work for everyone, right? So sharing what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it in the community is super important.
Yeah, I'll just add, I mean, I think there's 2 types of education. We're talking about educating everybody knows, we've talked to, it's come up in every conference I've ever gone to about data centers, about there's a huge workforce gap. A lot of us are in our twilight years, sorry, but I mean, and there's not a lot coming up, and it's interesting. I do think it's important to start that education and carry that on in the junior colleges and in high school, but I'm gonna double down and say that if we're not talking about it when the kids are in elementary school or middle school, then we've almost missed the boat. There's still a chance to get them when they're in high school, but I talk to a lot of my daughter's friends, and by the way, my daughter adamantly told me many, many years ago she does not want to be an architect or anything like that, so whatever. I still love her. But data centers are not talked about in STEM in elementary schools or in middle schools. I even volunteered to go into my daughter when she was in middle school, into her STEM class and speak about data center design and architecture and construction. And the teacher literally said, I don't think the kids would be interested in that. So the call to action is really get involved in your communities and start that education when you're seeing your kids not learning about data centers or data center design, because it's important for them. It's a great career, but it's also, if data centers are more known in the community, then there's going to be more support for it when you, as a developer, operator, designer, contractor, are coming into that community, because they know that, oh, yeah, my son is going to community college and he's going to be a data center tech. Yeah, we want this in our backyard, kind of thing. So it has a great ROI all around.
It's so interesting, data centers, you were touching upon this, Karen, that data centers used to be back of house, back of mind, right? It was an infrastructure project that you shouldn't really think much about, just utilize the internet, utilize the benefits of the data center, but the data center themselves was behind the scenes. Now, with announcements of things like Stargate, these are huge federal programs, AIs, it went from back of house, back of mind to front of mind, front of house. So everybody's now engaged with it with limited information, right? I mean, I think we're discussing that. I'm curious to you, Joe, when you go into a community, whether rural or a more urban community, what is the most common or some of the common misconceptions you hear right off the bat when you tell them that we're applying for a data center? And what is the initial reaction from the community members? And how do you initially mitigate?
Well, I can tell you it's a mix. It depends. We've gone in some areas, and a lot of the misconceptions. We don't want you using up our natural resources. We don't want you using the power. We don't want you using our water. And you just have to kind of work through that. And yes, we do use a lot of power, but talked a lot about the pros that come with the data center. But again, a lot of it is they just don't know what happens in a data center. You know, like somebody mentioned, it's always secretive. You know, nobody's putting their name on them. It's just a big block building, no windows. You didn't know what goes on in there. And even to this day, you know, somebody asks, hey, what do you do? And I say, I design and build data centers. Even though it's all over the news, they're like, what is that? You know, and so when I say, when you go and run your credit card, it probably runs through somebody's building to get to the cash register and come back to you, you know. And when you explain it in layman terms, you know, it kind of, oh, okay, you know, and they see the importance of it. And kind of like kids, we were talking about, you know, I would never want to do that until you start putting in how a data center affects your everyday life, even for kids. You know, if they're online gaming with their friends, guess what? It's probably what in a data center, you're not online gaming with your friends. And when you break it down to like that and they see that that a data center is part of something that they enjoy, then it becomes, oh, well, maybe I can take it off, you know, use this as a career, you know, these professional gamers or whatever they think they want to be, or digital content providers as a career. If there wasn't a data center, they couldn't be digital creators as they want to use as a title. So, but still, even to this day, as long as they've been around, people, when you say I design and build data centers, they don't know what that means. And so it goes down to the grassroots of getting in and quit being the cloak and dagger and secretive. I mean, it's all over the news now, every way. So, I mean, just show how the benefits that a data center is to a community and to a potential career builder for kids.
Stacy, do you want to comment on that from the GC's perspective? I know a lot of times as it relates to any construction project, people want it to be poof, it's there without any impacts to dust or traffic or anything. So what are some of the misconceptions people might have coming in as it relates to construction, and how are some of the ways you mitigate it while being realistic that construction is disruptive by nature?
Yeah, we're the favorite people, you know, when they see, you know, and there's a lot of responsibility when a general contractor comes and we plant our flag or plant our sign at the corner of the job site, and we make it known it's ours now. And, you know, a little bit, if the community is not prepped accordingly, it is mass chaos. It is a whole lot of people stopping by, a whole lot of what is this, what are you guys doing, what's happening, and, you know, I think from our perspective, we've had the benefit of working with hyperscalers that have set up a community engagement team, and those that rely on the general contractor to be the community engagement team. What I would say to you is that if you are relying on the general contractor to be your community engagement person, we have failed as a team because it is too late, right? So it really does start at the permitting and the design and bringing in the community, really listening to what the needs are in the community, and then transferring that to the general contractor, and then we're clearly communicating to said neighbors, right? So we like to say that we're respectful neighbors. Good is relative, but being respectful, right? So what is the constraint of that neighborhood, right? Is it traffic? Is it the one lane? Is it the bus route? Is there a school nearby? I'll give you an example. We have a meeting with the school next week. There's SOL testing that is happening on the south side of the project, and they've asked us, hey, our fifth graders need some quiet time. Can you guys limit the noise from 8 to 10 in the morning? Sure, not a problem. We listened, right? We can, if we know those things, we can adapt and be nimble and be respectful. But I think the clear communication of getting up front to say, hey, we are going to be here. We're going to be here for 2 years. And in that 2 years, we're going to provide some updates. Good community outreach plans we've established websites, there's an email address that gets plastered, there's a hotline number that can be posted that people can respond to, and then, you know, the owner and the general contractor have an escalation plan. How do you respond to those neighbors, right? So if you can plan for it, you'll be successful, because you are gonna get questions, you are gonna get asked, but, you know, I think as long as you communicate timeline and where you are in the stage, right? And we can be generic, right? We can be like, hey, steel is going up. That's the weird cranes. Or rock blasting is happening. Blasting is an interesting word. Maybe rock removal is used
Mitigation,
not to
rock
alert the
mitigation.
media. Yep. You know, for 6 months. So if they hear it, they know, oh, that's only going to be 6 months. I'm good, you know, right now. So I think it's listening to what the community needs are, really knowing those as a contractor going into the job before, and then we're clearly communicating in the neighborhood, you know, during it, and then being able to transfer from an operations standpoint. The goal for us is to transfer happy neighbors, right? So we leave, we, you know, deflag the site, and we let the operations team go, and hopefully you have good, happy neighbors.
And one of the things I'll add is, with our philosophy is always to continue, if we've done a build in one area, so if we're in this city, it's much easier for us to build our second data center there, our third data center there. We understand the process, we understand the community, so it's not just being that respectful neighbor for that short period of time, is we try to become part of the community for an extended period of time, because we know there's going to be more opportunities. And it's not that, hey, we'll give you a few bucks to the city council to put our name on something or anything, but you actually have to become involved in the community, where you actually take part. And if you're in a small town, in the local festival they have there, and you have your representation, and you're actually part of it, and you get involved in their school systems, you get involved in anything, and that way you can have that and continue to build, because you see most people, I'd say most developers continue to grow in one area, and that's one of the big things that we want to do as well.
Just to add on one other thing, not to forget too, you know, in the community, you know, they talk about how many jobs you create in the data center. In the data center, you know, it's not a lot, depending on, you know, how much you have to operate and how much a customer brings. One thing that's really important to mention at community meetings that's gone a long way with us is mention about the other jobs that it creates, not necessarily inside the data center. Security guards, landscapers, janitorial services, anything like that. That got a lot of eyes open to us at sitting in a community meeting, and they're like, oh, okay, you know, and so the people that were getting ready to protest or had issues, they're like, I'm a small business owner that does what he just said. Maybe I'm not gonna make any noise, because if they're gonna do a campus, that's 10 buildings or something I get to mow the lawns for, or I get security guard services for. So it's very important to not forget about the ancillary services that are required, not just inside the data center, but for the campus. So it's very important to remember that.
You know, a wise woman once said, Karen, that you've never seen a data center campus that wasn't also an active construction site well after.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk upon that a little bit, and just some of the trades that go into it long term? So a lot of times there's a conception, once this job's done, there's only the techs in the building and the service providers, but in reality, data centers churn a lot of day two work, so.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that the servers being designed, especially with AI, are being designed faster than we can construct. So we're already behind. When we've finished a data center, it's already, you know, last year's news or last week's news. So construction is constant in the data centers, which is great for us as designers and contractors, because it's a recurring job, but it's something that is also needs to be, that the local community can be, there's an opportunity to educate them a little bit more on what that really means for them, not just the ancillary landscapers, janitorial, et cetera, but the ongoing construction jobs piled on top of what Stacy was saying about the training up of the local workforce in these very specific fields. And it can develop into an ongoing, very constant job for a lot of these construction workers, where construction sometimes is a up and down depending on what industry you're in. So data centers is a pretty constant construction phase. So it can lead to a lot of job security for the people in that area. And I think it goes back to what we've all said is the education. There's a lot of information out there on social media and online about data centers now, whereas those of us who started in, the late 90s, I just aged myself, but that it wasn't out there, and it was a big big box. And now it's still a big box, but there's a lot of information out there, and not all of it is accurate. So it's our job as owners, designers, contractors to really educate what all of that means. So.
Joe and John, I'm curious from you guys, from an owner-operator perspective, as you enter a community for community engagement, or perhaps even it's an existing community you've already worked in, but you're expanding your campus, who is your dream team as far as disciplines, professional services that would be engaging with the community engagement? Do you want the architect in front, or is it someone just from your organization? Is it a land attorney? How broad of a team is that? And yeah.
I'd say, since we're the long-term owner and developer, we usually take the lead. Do we bring some of our support there to it? Yes, but it's our long-term responsibility, and we're the ones who are going to feel it if something goes wrong. So we want to be the ones who are out in front of it, building that relationship, having those discussions. Now, will I need to bring technical people to support? Yes, but I think for us, it is we take that lead and bring our teams with us to support.
Just reiterating what John said, it's very important because a lot of conceptions, I've been in meetings where they're saying, well, you're based in Connecticut, so you're just going to build this and leave. And I'm like, no, we're here. We want to be here. You're going to see me. You're going to see, I'm not sending a proxy. I'm not sending anybody. The person that I'm talking to now, if you come, we're going to be here, to John's point. They want to see the people that are going to be there, not the ones that come in, make it happen, and then they're in another state. They want to see the people that are going to be there.
I know we want to stay positive here. I want to stay positive too, but I'm going to ask a quick little, feel free to take this where you want to go. Have you been associated with a project where they really flubbed the community engagement? And what was the ramifications of that? You can anonymize it, don't tell me the city, don't tell me the firm, but where has it gone wrong, and what did we learn from that experience?
Are you looking at me?
Anybody?
Sure,
You start.
I have I'll generalize everything and I'll just I left the firm that this was working on halfway through, so I don't know how it ended, so cliffhanger, I have no idea. But yeah, it was everything. It's a new data center design, a new data center developing team, and they didn't understand the importance of community engagement at the beginning and it was not a deliberate community engagement. It was more organic. And so this data center was being designed and going up right next to a residential area, which happens all over the country. And there were a few neighbors who had some concerns because they liked their big empty lot next to their backyard, and they didn't want a big data center with all of the unknowns and the gensets and everything else. And half of it was misinformation, right? That they thought that there's going to be some electromagnetic fields that were going to give them cancer, and it was going to kill the birds, and a lot of, we've all heard the funny stuff that goes back to the education. But I really think, and this didn't come out until the public hearings. And I always say, if you're already at the public hearings and you're just now hearing the issues that the community is going to have, then you're already too late. So I'm hopeful that it was all solved. I think it was all solved, but it probably took a lot more energy and effort on part of the developing team and the contractor than it really had to be if the team had gone in at the beginning and held some community meetings. But to go back to what you said, it was all very secretive. We didn't want to we couldn't let anybody know that anything was going up. because they're afraid that there's going to be community kickback. And so it's sort of a catch-22. When is the right time? I'm always going to say open and honest transparency, I think always works better, because like you guys are saying, you're in there for the long haul and you want to be a community member. You only have one chance to make a first impression. And if that first impression is, we are a data center and we are going to build here because we're allowed to, and we don't want to listen to you, we don't care, and we're only going to listen to you when it's going to impact us getting our land use permit, that's not the right first impression. That's not being a good, respectful neighbor. I know, you're training me. That's not being a respectful neighbor, but if you go in at the beginning, then I think it could work out a lot better.
Now you tell me that making a first impression is important after I told all these people about my potty training current battles, to prep me ahead of time, I'm curious, I want to leave some time for Q&A. I'm hoping for an active conversation with you guys, because I know everybody in this room is involved with data center design, development, and operations in one way or another. And if you know it or not, even if you're as technical as you can be in your field, you are in the community engagement process, because we all are. But one maybe just kind of conceptual question here. Obviously, community engagement, we're conducting that to achieve our project approvals, right? Designers want our designs approved, construction wants the go-ahead, owner-operators want to, get the buildings up. This is obvious. But beyond just getting that approval, I guess let me ask, maybe going from Joe and then all down, what would you say is the feeling you have or the metrics of success when you know community engagement went well? So what are you looking for? Beyond just that permit, how do you engage whether and measure whether we're being successful with our community engagement efforts?
When you feel accepted by the community and they come out when you're opening a new campus or opening a data center and they're behind you. They're there to celebrate this thing. And that's one of the, at Avaya, I used to be a digital realty for 13 years, and so I saw this a lot. We're a new startup, but it's a good feeling, not just for the approvals, but when you're going to showcase this place and the community wants to come see it and they're congratulatory and they're happy that it's here. That's the better feeling for me. It's not all the approvals, it's just when you feel accepted.
Yeah, I think if we're hiring for the years to come for the operations team, and you become that, for us, it's really, you become that employer of choice. So it means that people in the community want to work there. It's easy to hire. You know when you go to a restaurant, like people aren't spitting in your food, things like that. Like
that's positive.
You know the good companies that in your communities. You know where people want to be. You know the ones that no one wants to work for. You have that just ick feeling with those companies, and that's where we know it's a long-term success, that we built that relationship and we've carried it on through the life cycle of the data center.
Yeah, I would say from a construction standpoint, our reputation, our name matters. I would say first in the community, when we go to having pre-install or kickoff meetings with the AHJ or the county inspectors or the school or the neighbors or the town hall meetings, and they say, oh, it's a Clark job. Okay, they're good. They're good people. They'll listen to us, right? That's key, and we got to maintain that and keep that along the way. I would say from a workforce, and there's a ton out there, right? Having trades want to work for Clark because we provide the best worker experience on that project is really key in what drives us, right? So one of the things that, a little plug or a tangible thing for you guys to think about is we look at ways to bring in the communities into these remote areas, right? So we're building a lot of jobs down in Louisa County, remote area, not a lot of stuff going on, but we're figuring out how to bring mom and pop markets into the campus site, and they have a market for our workers that can not leave the campus and maybe add on to their lunch. But to expand their business, they are very happy. The local mom and pop market's very happy. The local Sheetz is also very happy with us. But involving the community is great. That also elevates the experience for the workers, and they want to work for a Clark job because they know that we care and that we prioritize their needs maybe ahead of other general contractors.
Yeah, I think for a designer and A&E firm, it's different because we're not a long-standing part of that community. Usually, we're not local. We're in there for a very short period of time, the front end of the project, and, fly in to do construction administration, and then we're done, right? Wash our hands of it and on to the next. We don't have to own and operate it. We don't have to build up a reliable workforce to operate the facility over the next 10, 20 years. But as a designer, I think we all went into the design field with the core belief that good design, at least I did. I don't want to speak for any other architects or designers out there, but I went into the field believing that good design does impact everybody's experience in that building or in that space. And so even though it's a data center, there are still opportunities to incorporate good design in it. It might not be good design that makes it on the front of Architectural Digest, if that even exists anymore. I don't even know if it does. But there's other aspects of good design, good problem solving, good sustainability efforts, good MEP design built into the design. And there are spaces in that design that people still inhabit data centers. And so we still have to think about that human aspect. So for me, when it comes down to merging why I went into architecture with how community engagement is successful in a project, it's merging that, what I believe is good design, into what the community believes is good design, because it's not always this one and the same. It has to be specific. Community A, per our conversation, might really want a dog park, but community B, and so we design a dog park, and it's very successful for community A. So as an architect, I might go into community B saying, well, they're just like 50 miles down the road. They probably want a dog park too. I'm just going to design it in. And they don't want a dog park. They want a, bowling alley. I don't know. They want some other amenity. So it has to be specific, but learning to listen to that community and their feedback and merging that successfully into the design is what makes it successful to me.
Yeah, I would echo you. Just trying to leave the community with a respectful facade that they enjoy, appropriate landscaping, an appropriate visual aesthetic experience for them. And then to the workers that are going to operate and work within the building, giving them places to work that does have natural light. It has health and wellness built in. It is respectful to them. And they notice that, right? These communities, they may not be sophisticated as it relates to data centers, as maybe their first data center ever done, but they're not stupid. They're really smart, and they know when you're being respectful to them, and they know when you're not. To that, I'm curious to the panel. We can keep sharing our thoughts here, but I'd love to know if anybody here has any questions. If you do have questions, you don't mind if you could go up to speak to the microphone, only because we're being somehow recorded in a data center. I'm in a data center right now. Oh my
It's
God.
all in the cloud. It's in the cloud.
Yeah.
For community engagement.
You don't mind, introduce yourself first.
Oh,
just, yeah.
hi, I'm John Pilgrim. I'm a design manager for NTT data centers. I was wondering about, really for the owner and the operators, and actually in construction, do you bring in, and you're talking about bringing like kids and such like at an early age, do you allow them to see your facility or your construction site, or what you're like, just the whole engagement? So high school, college, that whole, even middle school.
We do bring different groups in. Usually it's high school students and bring them through. We haven't ever just opened up to the community-wide. I do know one data center we work at and operate for another customer. They actually opened up their entire data center for the community for a day and had tons of individuals come through. They had, I mean, there were portions that they didn't bring them back. They didn't take them back to the white space, but it was a really good event, and we've never gone that far, but we do have schools come through on a regular basis.
Yeah, I was at one where they told the kids you could unplug 3 plugs and you get a pick. I'm just joking. That didn't happen. That never happened. That would have been engaging, but it didn't.
I'll answer the construction aspect. You know, bringing kids on a job site, a little bit of a liability standpoint, but there's a way to do it. You know, I will say corporately, we do a take your kid to work day. It's next week. And we bring kids from 5 to, I guess however old your teenager wants to come. And there is a planned event for our workers, and we open that up to trade partners, architect, designers, owners, if they want to bring their people into job site just to see what construction is. From a data center perspective, I have seen that successful. It's a liability thing to work out with the owner. We've been adjacent to schools, and so working with their STEM program, which a lot of our schools here have, there's like drive-by field trips that you can do a lot of teaching and learning opportunities, and from the job site fence with equipment in the background and explanations up front. You know, there's a lot of activity. So you can be engaged. It just takes some thoughtful planning.
Next question.
Hello, I'm Holly Elwood. I'm from the Global Electronics Council. We own the EPEAT eco label for sustainable servers, network equipment, and moving into data storage equipment. And I was just curious if you use any sustainability certifications to talk to the community and demonstrate and prove to them actions you're taking to be good stewards in the community. And if you are using certifications, which ones you think are most effective at getting the points across, and if you see opportunities for improvement in that space.
No, we do highlight those, especially in the community meetings early, things that when the question comes up about our natural resources, you know, our local water or anything like that, we do show ways that we're harvesting water, things that we're trying to conserve water, how we're doing landscaping that is local and hardy and drought tolerant. It's explaining those things, not just putting it in and expecting somebody to see them on the drawings. We highlight them. We bring them up and say we're designing to LEED Silver or better, or getting the certification. We're going with the GBIs. You know, how many green initiatives are we doing? Our company is huge into green. We do a lot of solar as a standard design. We're doing solar, and we're explaining that. Hey, our office area, we're trying to do solar, so our office area during the daytime is running on that and not off your grid. We explain those things up front.
I would also just say to sustainability, absolutely, it matters, especially for the community engagement portion. Sometimes it kills us as designers, though, because the money it takes to get certified could be better used to actually making it more sustainable. But how do you communicate that to the community without that stamp? So it's a push-pull, but absolutely, sustainability is hugely important and one of the things that the community is most engaged about. Yes, sir.
My name is Charlie Westbrook. I'm with Resource Environmental Solutions. We're the nation's largest ecological restoration company. We're working with hyperscalers and co-locators, developers in sustainable recharging aquifers for water sustainability. We're doing biomimicry to help with approvals through zoning boards to make it look better. And I was going to ask, like, where is the ecological aspect in terms of community acceptance? Is that a good salve to the acceptance into a community? I think you've kind of answered that a little bit, but that was my question.
Yeah, no, it is accepted when they see that you're not trying to deplete resources, but you're trying to show ways to replenish, to your point, or add back or be self-sustained in our own sense and not taking resources away from the community. we're always looking at things like that, whether it's wells on site, to your point of an aquifer, replenishing aquifer, but using wells instead of using the city or county water system, excuse me, city or county water systems, and putting those under strain with the amount of water that, depending on the customer you get, in a data center, could be millions of gallons a day down to a few 100,000 gallons a day, depending on who's your customer. So showing those things, and we as a company is trying to do those sustainability things and not leave a footprint or a depletion to any community that we go into.
Kind of the good neighbor.
Right.
Respectful neighbor.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add on to that. I think the follow-up isn't just the new design of it, right? I mean, if we walk into a community and that is their hot topic, right? They really want to understand what you're doing about it, because water resource is a concern for them. And in the design, we have done, you all have done something to address that. The real win is then when we transition into construction, we provide an update to that, right? So we're allowed to talk about that, right? There are status updates that we can send out on, okay, there are 4 retention ponds, or there's a stream diversion that's going to be better for the community. Here are maybe updates to it. Here are pictures. And then we're letting the community know what you promised the community, we are now delivering, right? And I think that transparency goes a long way. And I think that is missing in a lot of our construction, because we're hands are tied, right? Don't talk about it, just go and do, right? And be good neighbors and don't make them mad. Well, I think we got to talk about what the promises were up front, and we're delivering for the community.
Add something else that's important. Going into a lot of these rural areas, we find a lot of properties where the power is and everything, you're dealing with a lot of like wetlands. And so we make an effort to not take the permit path and go through the core and get this tributary, permitted to be able to use. We're building around the wetlands. We're trying to maintain the wetlands. And there are times, obviously, you just got to permit something. But for the most part, we're staying out of RPAs and bridging across. If you've got a road or a duck bank or something, we're either jack and boring under them, or if traffic, we're building bridges and staying out of the RPAs and the wetlands themselves. So we're trying to go into these communities and not deplete what made these areas beautiful and what the neighbors like. We're trying to keep it and make it part of our campus.
But when you have to, we also do mitigation banking and provide custom solutions for impacts like
Use
that
mitigation banks. A lot of mitigation banks.
Very
in my
good,
past.
very good. I
A lot
like
of
the
times.
hustle. Hey, I'm mindful of time, guys. We're at our time right now. We're going to be here. This whole panel is going to be here for the rest of the day. Imagine we're a community. Come up and engage with us. Let's have some dialogues, okay? Thank you so much.